There's a moment in every man's life when the air goes still, the lights get too bright, and even your own skin feels foreign. Mine happened on a Tuesday, 6:12 p.m. I know because I checked my watch, the one she gave me for our 5th anniversary, back when her kisses still meant something. I was slicing carrots. You know, doing my part in the dinner ritual. She was in the other room, working, which in our house usually meant playing solitaire and avoiding eye contact. Then came the sound that started it all, a soft click. Barely audible, like a mouse trap or a camera shutter. But it wasn't either. It was the sound of her laptop screen closing. That shouldn't have meant anything. But it did. The click was too fast, too sharp, too guilty. I wiped my hands on the towel and walked into the living room. She was already on the couch, phone in hand, legs curled like a cat in a sunbeam. Calm, casual, and about as subtle as a fire in a library. Who was that? I asked, keeping my voice light. She blinked. What? On the call? I heard you laugh. Oh, just work stuff. She didn't look up. The way she said it, that dismissive shrug of a voice, made something inside me stiffen. Must be a fun job, I said. She smiled, barely. It has its moments. That was the first lie. Not because I knew anything for sure yet, but because I'd been married long enough to recognize when the truth had stepped out the back door. I nodded and went back to the kitchen. Finished the carrots. We ate in silence that night, her chewing too fast, me not really tasting anything. That's when it began. The first flicker of doubt. The first chip in the armor of our marriage. All from one soft click and a silence that stretched too long. And if you're thinking it could have been nothing, then my friend, you've never seen your wife look at her phone like it's the one that got away. The next morning, she left early. Too early. No breakfast, no goodbye kiss, no sarcastic jab about me burning the toast. Just the front door easing shut like she didn't want it to wake the guilt. I stared at her coffee mug, bone white, lipstick smudged, still warm. Something in me twitched. Now, I've never been the jealous type. I don't go checking phones or sniffing collars. But when the patterns start slipping, when routines you could set a watch by suddenly stutter, that's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I opened her laptop. It wasn't locked. She trusted me, apparently. Or she underestimated me. Emails? Clean. Calendar? Normal. But then I checked the browser history. That's where the trail began. A hotel site bookmarked. Twice. Once late at night, once midday. I clicked it. She'd been looking at rooms in a boutique hotel downtown, the kind that charges extra for ambience and has bathtubs in the middle of the room. Romantic. Intimate. Suspicious. She had a meeting downtown yesterday, she said. Meeting who? That click in my brain got louder. I closed the laptop. Didn't touch anything else. I wanted to play it smart. If you jump at shadows, they vanish. But if you sit quietly, they stretch out across the floor. When she got home that night, her hair was different, like she'd fixed it after leaving work. She smelled like a perfume she hadn't worn in years. The one she said was too much for daily wear. Funny how too much suddenly fit her Tuesday. Long day? I asked. She blinked. Yeah, exhausting. She smiled like she meant it. And for the first time, I smiled back like I didn't. Wednesday was normal. Too normal. Like a movie set version of our life, where everything looked real but none of it felt alive. She kissed me goodbye that morning, but her eyes didn't follow her lips. They were already looking past me, towards something shinier, riskier, more electric. And me? I was starting to feel like a placeholder. Like the pre-show before her real life turned on. I spent the day in a fog. Tried working, failed. Tried reading, failed harder. Every sound the house made felt like a warning. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, the echo of her voice still stuck in the air. It all felt off. So I did something I'd never done before. I followed her. Not far, not aggressively. Just enough to see. To confirm. To stop the gnawing in my gut that was slowly becoming a roar. She said she had yoga at 6. I watched her drive past the studio. Kept going. Downtown again. Straight to that hotel. I didn't follow her in. Didn't need to. I parked across the street and watched her reflection in the glass as she hugged someone. A man. Taller than me. Confident. The kind of guy who wears sunglasses indoors and gets away with it. They laughed. She touched his arm. And just like that, I became a ghost. Not just in the relationship, but in my own story. She walked inside with him. No hesitation. No glance back. Like I never existed. I sat in my car until the sky turned orange, then gray, then black. I didn't cry. I didn't even swear. I just stared at my own reflection in the rearview mirror. I didn't look betrayed. I looked erased. The night I watched her walk into that hotel, I became something I'd never expected, a man without a home, standing in the driveway of the life he paid for. Not homeless in the cardboard sense. Just a guy who realized his house was a stage set, and the co-star had long since rewritten the script. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove. No destination, no plan. Just open road and headlights that didn't care if I was heartbroken or just finally paying attention. I ended up in a truck stop diner, somewhere past the edge of the city. A place where no one knew my name, which was exactly what I needed. The waitress called me honey, poured me bad coffee, and left me alone. Bless her. I sat there in that cracked vinyl booth for hours, staring at my hands like they might explain how I got here. I kept waiting for the anger, the explosion, but it never came. That was the strangest part. No fire, just the quiet detonation of acceptance. At 2:13 a.m., I pulled out my phone. A text from her. Just one. Did you eat? That was it. Not where are you? Not I miss you. Not even come home. Did you eat? Like I was her pet. Like I was still on her checklist. Feed the cat. Text the husband. Wash off the scent of the other man. I didn't respond. I didn't trust myself to say anything I wouldn't regret. Or worse, forgive her. Instead, I opened a notes app and made a list. Not a to-do list. A done-with list. Every little crack I'd smoothed over. Every cold shoulder I convinced myself was just stress. Every moment I gave her grace while she quietly replaced me in her world. There were more entries than I expected. Like how she stopped using we and started saying I. Like how she began dressing up to run errands. Like how she always showered before she got home. Details. Tiny, sharp, deliberate. You don't see the red flags when you're busy folding them into napkins at dinner. I drove home at sunrise. Quiet. Calm. Like a man walking back into the fire, not to save anything, but to see how much was left to burn. When I opened the front door, the house was still. She was asleep. Her shoes were neatly by the door, her coat on the hook, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just walked into a hotel room and laughed with another man in the kind of way she used to save for me. I stood there in the entryway, just breathing. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. I could have yelled. I could have woken her up. Instead, I walked into the kitchen and made coffee. 2 mugs. Hers the way she liked it. Mine bitter and black. When she came in, barefoot, eyes puffy, that sweatshirt she only wore when she was trying to look soft, she stopped. You're back, she said, like she wasn't sure if that was good news. I nodded and handed her the coffee. Yep. She took it, cautiously, like it might explode. Neither of us spoke for a while. She finally said, Where'd you go? Out. A pause. You didn't text. I noticed. She looked at me then. Really looked. And for a split second, I saw something in her eyes that wasn't guilt, or shame, or even worry. It was calculation. She was trying to figure out what I knew. That was the moment I knew for sure. Do you want to talk? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. Nope. She blinked. So what now? I sipped my coffee and smiled. Not a warm smile. Not cruel either. Just, final. I'm going to do exactly what you did, I said. She narrowed her eyes. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. She wasn't ready for the answer. Not yet. She spent the rest of the day acting normal. She cleaned. She hummed. She tried to pull me into conversations I didn't want to have. I let her. I gave her the illusion she was still in control, because that's how you prepare someone for impact. You don't yell surprise with the lights on. You wait until the room goes dark. That night, while she was asleep, I went into the guest room, the one we stopped using after the vacation she canceled to focus on work. I opened the suitcase I'd packed weeks ago. Not clothes. Not toiletries. Evidence. Photos. Emails. A backup of her cloud storage she didn't realize synced to my account. I wasn't snooping. I was documenting. Because I knew this wasn't going to end with an apology. It was going to end with an explosion. And I wanted to make sure the right person got scorched. I printed everything. Not to confront her. Not yet. I had something else in mind. You see, she made the mistake of thinking I'd never do anything. That I'd keep being the guy who picked up the dry cleaning while she picked out lingerie for someone else. But the thing about the quiet ones? We don't yell. We build. Plans. Patience. Consequences. And tomorrow, she'd wake up to the first domino. Morning came slow and ordinary, just like betrayal likes it. She padded into the kitchen wearing the same robe she wore on our honeymoon. Said it was the softest thing on earth. Amazing how silk can still look cheap when worn by a liar. I was already dressed. Not in sweats. Not in that faded t-shirt she used to steal from the laundry. No, this was a button-up and clean jeans that I've got somewhere to be uniform. She blinked. You're up early. I nodded. Got some errands to run. On a Saturday? Why not? She smiled, polite, cautious, like she wasn't sure if she was talking to a man or a landmine. Need help with anything? There it was again. The performance. She still thought she could win me back with that soft tone and half-hearted offers of domestic normalcy. But her eyes were scanning me, searching for signs. Was I angry? Suspicious? Broken? I was none of those. I was focused. Actually, I said, could you do me a favor? Sure. There's a manila envelope on the entryway table. Can you drop it off for me? Where to? Just give it to the front desk at the firm. They'll handle the rest. She nodded, clearly relieved. A simple errand. No confrontation. No drama. She didn't even ask what was in the envelope. But she should have. Inside were copies of everything. Not the originals. I'm not stupid. But clear, crisp evidence. Timeline, screenshots, photos. Even a copy of the reservation confirmation from the hotel, in her name, for two. Oh, and a handwritten note from me. Since you've been so generous with your time, I figured I'd return the favor and share your talents with our legal team. You'll find them remarkably thorough. That envelope wasn't going to my workplace. It was going to our family lawyer. We'd met him together 3 years back when we were planning wills. A quiet man with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense approach to marriage contracts. I remembered how she joked he looked like a courtroom owl. Funny how you never forget who will one day hold the scalpel to your shared life. She left around 9:30 a.m., envelope in hand, humming again. That damn hum, like she was rewriting the soundtrack of our marriage into something light and forgettable. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed the second envelope, this one for her mother. You'd think I was being petty. Maybe. But if you're going to spend 5 years pretending your in-laws are your second parents, they deserve to know who you really are. I dropped it in the mailbox myself. No tracking number. No note. Just trust in the U.S. Postal Service and the quiet devastation of the truth. The rest of the day, I spent staging the house not like a realtor, like an exit strategist. I boxed up everything that was mine. Just mine. Left the rest right where it was, like a shell around the truth. I wasn't running. I was stepping out with precision. By evening, I was already at the short-term rental I'd arranged 2 weeks earlier. 2 towns over. Furnished. Quiet. With a view of the kind of lake that doesn't ask questions. At 7:12 p.m., she called. Hey, she said, breezy. I dropped off your envelope. I waited. And nothing, she said. Receptionist said they'd get it where it needs to go. Why? No reason. A pause. Then, you okay? I could have said anything. But I chose silence. It's amazing how much weight you can fit into a single breath. I made pasta, she offered, suddenly chipper. Thought we could watch something tonight. Maybe that dumb detective show you like. I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. I won't be home tonight. She hesitated. What? I'm staying somewhere else. A long pause this time. I imagined her blinking, her fingers tightening around the phone, her face trying to hold its shape. Why? Because I don't live there anymore. Elle, she said, her voice finally cracking. What's going on? Now it was my turn to hum. Just one note. Low. Final. You'll find out soon enough. I hung up. I turned off the phone. Then I turned toward the lake, sipping coffee that didn't taste like routine, breathing air that wasn't laced with lies. It's strange. When someone cheats on you, they don't just betray your trust. They rob your version of the story. The version where the little moments mattered, where the anniversaries meant something, where the fights were forgivable. But when they rewrite the script without telling you, you don't burn the book. You publish a better one. And mine? It was just getting started. Sunday morning came with headlines. Not the newspaper kind, the kind that starts showing up on your sister's phone, or your best friends, or your neighbors who doesn't like to gossip, but will call you the second something juicy hits the group chat. She didn't text me that morning. No calls either. Which, honestly, said more than any apology ever could. That silence? It was the sound of her checking the locks on the door she just realized had blown off its hinges. I knew the envelope had landed. I imagined her opening it slowly, confusion first. Maybe even a chuckle, thinking it was a joke. But by the third page? By the time-stamped photos, the receipts, the messages from Jay, she knew. Oh, she knew. I picture her pacing in the kitchen, the one I paid to remodel, dialing her lawyer with a shaky voice and mascara from last night still clinging to denial. I'm sure she said something like, "He blindsided me," or "This isn't who he is." That's what they say when they get caught on the wrong side of the truth. They rewrite it. They edit the villain and the victim roles like casting parts in a school play. But this wasn't a play anymore. This was her performance review. And she'd been found wanting. Mid-morning, I visited my brother. Now, Nathan's the kind of guy who keeps his garage cleaner than most people keep their kitchens. He doesn't say much, which is ironic because his silence has more wisdom than half the world's loudest mouths. He opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask. Just stepped aside. We sat in his garage, surrounded by power tools and quiet, drinking gas station coffee like war veterans. I handed him a flash drive. "What's this?" "Everything," I said. He didn't plug it in. He just nodded. "You want me to hold on to it?" "For now." Another nod. Then he said something that stuck. "She thought you'd never do anything." Exactly. That's the thing. People don't cheat on you because they want freedom. They cheat because they think you won't leave. They think you'll tolerate just enough until the storm passes. They bet on your patience and count on your silence. She bet wrong. By noon, the second domino fell. Her mother called me. 3 times. Left one voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Didn't need to. I knew what was in it. Confusion, concern, and a healthy dose of, how could you do this to her? Funny. How could I do this? They never start the story from page 1. They always open the book halfway through, right where the main character finally fights back. Around 3 p.m., I got a knock on the door. Not my new door, the door to my brother's place. I was on the back patio, sipping water and watching the clouds stretch thin like lies unraveling. Nathan answered, then called out, "It's her." I didn't move. "She says it's important." I shrugged. So was Fidelity. But she didn't leave. After 5 minutes, I walked to the front door. She looked smaller. Not physically. Just reduced. Like a woman who finally realized she was in the wrong movie. "Elle, please. Don't call me that." Her lip trembled. I didn't think it would go this far. Neither did I. But here we are. I just wanted to talk. Too late. Can I at least explain? No. Then what do you want? That question. That exact question. As if my response would hand her the keys to a reality she'd already torched. "I want peace," I said. And distance. And clarity. And for once in my life, I want to stop feeling like a guest in my own damn marriage. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, like a kid caught red-handed, but still hoping the evidence was up for debate. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't mean to get caught," I corrected. "Don't mix the two." Silence stretched. She glanced down, fiddled with the sleeve of her cardigan. Then, like it had just occurred to her, she asked, "What about us?" I looked her in the eye. "There is no us. There's what you chose. And what I refused to accept. That was it. No theatrics. No final hug. No swelling music. Just a door closing with the softest thud you'll ever hear from a man who just reclaimed his narrative. By nightfall, I was back at the lake house. The wind off the water carried that clean, unfiltered kind of silence. No subtext. No hidden tabs left open. I sat on the porch and watched the stars rise like new possibilities. She thought I'd never do anything. She was wrong. Monday brought the calm after a fire you didn't set but still had to put out. I woke up to a sky so blue it felt disrespectful. Like the universe was mocking me with clarity while my life still smelled faintly of ash. She hadn't called again. Which, honestly, was the most honest thing she'd done in weeks. Even a liar knows when they've run out of stage. The lake outside my rental was still glassy. Untouched. Like it hadn't seen the version of me who spent the night before staring into it, wondering how I'd let myself shrink for someone who never stopped expanding into someone else's space. I brewed coffee. Black. No sugar. Not because I like it that way, but because I needed to taste something bitter that wasn't her. Then I opened my laptop. There it was. An email. Subject, please. No body text. No apology. No explanation. Just an attachment. I clicked, against my better judgment. It was a voice memo. 62 seconds long. I hit play. Her voice came through soft, cracked, like she'd been crying for hours but still hadn't figured out what for. I know I can't fix this. And maybe I don't deserve to. I didn't know how far gone I was until I looked up and you weren't there. Pause. I don't even know who I've been lately. But you always did. You knew me. Even when I didn't know myself. Another pause. I ruined us. I know that. And I know there's no one doing it. But if there's anything left, anything at all, I just needed you to hear me say I'm sorry. Not for getting caught. Not for losing you. For forgetting how to see you. I sat there, staring at the screen. Not moved. Not broken. Just done. The apology wasn't bad. Not fake. Not flowery. But it was too late. You can't ask someone to rebuild a house when you've already sold the land to someone else. I closed the laptop. Mid-afternoon, I drove into town. Needed groceries. Or maybe I just needed to be somewhere where the air wasn't recycled with memories. At the checkout, the clerk looked at me. Young guy. Couldn't have been more than 22. You all right, man? I must have looked like something between grief and freedom. Yeah, I said. I think I'm getting there. Back at the lake house, I found something I hadn't noticed before, an old fire pit near the shore. Half buried in leaves and thyme. I cleared it out. Set up kindling. Tossed in old receipts, scribbled notes, the printed out voice memo transcription I didn't remember making. Then, I pulled out a photo. Us. From a trip to Asheville. Her in that yellow dress she used to love. Me in sunglasses, arm around her waist like it meant something permanent. I stared at it for a long time, then tossed it in the flames. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. The fire didn't roar. It whispered. Like it understood. This wasn't revenge. This was release. See, no one ever tells you what comes after the discovery. The raw days. The silent rage. The ghost limerick of someone who used to live in your laughter. Everyone talks about the big betrayal. The cheating. The lie. But the real story? It's what you do when the noise stops. When it's just you. And a life that needs rewriting. She thought she'd broken me. She didn't. She broke the version of me that tolerated being forgotten. The real me? He was just getting started. That night, I started packing. Not to run. To move forward. I'd found an apartment, nothing fancy, just enough square footage for peace and a decent espresso machine. Signed the lease under a new name. Mine. Just mine. No shared mailbox. No emergency contacts listed under wife. By the time I zipped up my duffel, I felt 20 pounds lighter. Like I'd finally finished dragging a memory that refused to walk on its own. And then my phone buzzed again. Another message. Not from her. From him. The other man. His name was Jonah, apparently. How fitting, swallowed by something bigger than himself. His message was short. 4 words. I didn't know, man. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was pathetic. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. Because I was done giving liars airtime. I stepped outside one last time. Took one last look at the lake, the fire pit, the version of me that healed there. Then I locked the door, dropped the keys in the mailbox, and walked to my truck. The past wasn't chasing me anymore. It was buried, burned, boxed up in memories I no longer owed anyone. And as I drove off, windows down, sun setting behind me like some cliché ending, I didn't smile. But I didn't hurt either. And that felt like a beginning. The apartment was quiet, sterile. Still smelled like new paint and corporate neutrality, white walls, gray carpet, a kitchen that looked like no one had ever cooked in it. It was perfect. No memories. No echoes. Just space. The first night I slept there, I didn't dream. Not because I was at peace. Not yet. But because there were no ghosts in those walls. They hadn't learned my name. They didn't know how I used to laugh when she stole the blankets or hum when she made breakfast like it was a concert for one. They didn't know me. And that felt like freedom. I bought furniture slowly, just what I needed. No rush. A couch. A bed. A coffee maker. I didn't even buy chairs for the dining table. I wasn't ready to pretend this was a place for guests. It was mine. Just mine. About a weekend, I got a call from her sister. Now, if there was one person who had seen through her performance long before I did, it was Megan. She didn't say hello. Just, she's unraveling. I leaned against the counter. Yeah, that tends to happen when the mask slips. She's asking everyone to give her space. Which is hilarious, because she built her whole life around being the center of attention. I said nothing. She's not crying, Megan added, almost thoughtfully. She's just scrambling. Like she can't understand why no one's defending her this time. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But sympathy's a luxury best reserved for people who didn't lie to your face while kissing someone else behind your back. I didn't call to stir the pot, Megan continued. I called because you deserve to hear it. She knows she lost the one person who actually saw her. That stuck with me. Because it was true. I'd seen her flaws, moods, fears, and all, and I still tried. Until she stopped being someone worth trying for. That night, I took a walk. It was cold, just enough to sting. I passed a bakery that stayed open too late and a bookstore with a crooked open sign. Life was moving again. Not mine. Not fully. But enough. At the crosswalk, I saw a couple holding hands. Not in that performative, Instagram-ready way. Just quiet. Easy. Like gravity did the work. I didn't envy them. But I did wonder. Would I ever let someone get that close again? Would I ever want to? I wasn't sure. But for once, I wasn't scared of the question. It happened on a Tuesday. Fitting, really. Tuesdays are quiet. Unremarkable. The kind of day betrayal thrives in. She showed up. At my door. Hair curled. Lipstick on. Wearing that same red coat she wore the night she told me we were too comfortable. I opened the door halfway. Nothing more. Elle, can we talk? I sighed. You want closure? She shook her head. No. I want honesty. I tilted my head. Bit late for that. Her eyes welled up, and for a split second, I saw the woman I married, the one who used to steal fries off my plate and kiss me like every time was the first. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. But I miss you. I paused. You miss the version of me that tolerated you. Her face fell. You miss being loved without earning it. That was the moment something broke, not in me, but in her. I saw it. The realization. The awareness that I wasn't her soft place to land anymore. I wasn't going to be the man who folded her shame into second chances. I know I messed up. You ended it. I'm just honoring your decision. She didn't argue. That's how I knew she finally got it. I didn't invite her in. I didn't close the door on her either. I just stood there and let her realize she was no longer the story. She was the footnote. When she turned to leave, I didn't watch her walk away. I just stared at the hallway behind me. Clean. Quiet. Mine. Here's the part they don't teach you in movies. The real revenge isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not a flaming bag of clothes on a front lawn or a screaming match in the rain. The real revenge? It's you doing just fine. Thriving. Not because you want them to see it, but because you finally decided to stop bleeding for someone who kept handing you knives. It's waking up and not checking your phone. It's cooking dinner for one and not feeling lonely. It's sleeping through the night without dreaming of apologies that will never come. I didn't burn her things. I didn't post the photos. I didn't ruin her job, or her car, or her precious reputation. I just let her lose me. Fully. Permanently. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't about making them suffer. It's about making them irrelevant. So when people ask what I did when she cheated, I tell them this. I packed my dignity, my name, and my peace, and I left. And I never went back. Not even once.